Back with another episode of Circle of Trades. I'm Todd Studer, and in studio, Mr. Travis Waldstein, Aire, Serv Heating and Air Conditioning, Waldstein Plumbing of Council Bluffs, Iowa. And you have been busy. We talked several weeks ago, maybe even a couple of months ago, about how you were looking to add a new position into your organization. And sounds like you've done it, haven't you?
Finally, yes, I did. We just hired yesterday. We actually had to have about 4 interviews because I need certain people to meet with her. I won't announce her name publicly yet, so until I get a chance to get her indoctrinated. But she comes from, she's worked in the trade. She's worked in another industry for, about 10 years. So, which is kind of exciting. So, so she's got to learn our CRM. I hate that word, whatever that means, the right. Dispatch software, we're just talking about that. So, it's like shoulder season. That's another one of the words that I don't like. I hate that word. We had talked about that one too. So anyway, so we're bringing her on. We're just starting her in service titan training, get into that, but really excited about what that's going to do for us as far as coordination of services and accountability and follow up. And I'm really looking forward to, get her in here and implement some stuff to make things go smoother. So, we got to get her some Aire, Serv and Waldstein plumbing shirts, so she came in working her older players t-shirt this morning and said, we got to fix that problem. Lord knows I got freaking thousands of dollars worth of clothing. So clothing is not an issue. You go for
how deep into the interview process were you before you found out her football team allegiance?
30 seconds.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know it's not a decision maker for you. You don't discriminate hiring based off of that. You need to know how much to prepare to give her or anyone else a hard time based on who it is that they're rooting for.
Okay, listen, if you're a Husker, Vikings, Cowboys, or Broncos fan, yeah,
or Bears.
Our Bears, yeah, the Bears. Oh yeah. Oh, don't worry. There's, like I told my cousin yesterday, there's a picture floating around when I was in the Navy and I was young, and 18 to 23-year-olds do young, stupid stuff, and then they grow up. That's how I figured out. To where at that time of my life, I was a Bears fan, and then I grew up and I got smart and became a Packers fan. So, I've been a Packers fan a lot longer than I've been a fan of anybody else.
Hey, but while I'm thinking about this, and we can get back to actual topics here in a second, why is it that you, or pretty much any other Packers fan, the definite hatred of the Vikings, hatred of the Bears, you don't hear them talking about the Lions like that, and not to that level?
Here's what I'll say. After Detroit beat Green Bay twice last year, yeah, but you know what? But Detroit's also got, got Jack Campbell. They got Sam Laporta. They got one of our, there's 4 Hawkeyes playing for the Detroit Lions. Plus David Montgomery's an Iowa State guy. So it's like, as much as it pissed me off that Detroit beat Green Bay twice last year, I'm not going to lie. But it's like, dude, Sam Laporta is a great player. Jack Campbell, David Montgomery at Iowa State. The worst thing that happened to David Montgomery is he got drafted by the Bears for 3 years, and they freaking wasted him. Went to Detroit. He looked like he does in college now. So it's like, and I don't know. Detroit's been kind of, for lack of a word, dog poo for a long time. So, and I know there's a few people out here because Adong Kong Su played for him back, when he was first drafted. So, I don't know. It's just, I don't know, because Detroit's the furthest away, of the 4 teams, if you're in Green Bay, Detroit's right there, and so is Minneapolis, Chicago. But if you're in Southwest Iowa, it's like, okay, Detroit. I hate Denver worse than I hate Detroit, and listen, my wife is a fan of the fighting, Travis Kelce's or fighting Taylor Swift's, or, the fighting chefs, or, see, they even agreed with me outside.
This is the downside to having studios right next to the fire station. Every once in a while, they turn the sirens on early. When I was, that's why I hit the mute button. That's why it went away. But Yeah, because it used to be that when they pulled out, I didn't hear them until they got down to the expressway, and then they turned them on, and it wasn't nearly as loud. But
Hey, at least if there's a fire, they're close, so if
oh,
someone
they don't even
decides,
have to get the trucks out for me. They can just run their hoses out across the street if there's a fire in this building.
You're there, yeah. So it's right there. So no, you are really close to the fire station, no doubt about it.
So jumping back into bringing somebody into a new position, and this is an adjustment. It's not just an adjustment for her; it's an adjustment for your staff, and it's an adjustment for you personally. You learning how to let go of some stuff. That is going to be a big part of what's happening here.
Well, anybody that knows me, no matter what, you'll hear my opinion, whether you like it or not. So don't. If you think that's going away, you would be sadly mistaken. But no, to grow, to be able to develop, we need to bring in this position. I felt like last year, because I did not have this position, we probably left. We left a lot of money on the table last year because we did not have. I call it the glue piece that kind of puts everything together, and that's kind of what this positions is. The other things that's happened is I had an opportunity, like I said, there's a love-hate relationship with my franchise, and we've talked about this before, but actually they had a training out in Denver last week. And actually, all of my guys came back with quite a bit of stuff. I was actually very pleasantly surprised. But the three guys that I wanted to come back with a little bit of a change in mindset and attitude and where they wanted to go with the company, from talking to them, I'm pretty excited because I think they actually exceeded kind of my expectation, for what they might want to come back with and what they see their role in. And these are guys that have been with me. I mean, one's been with me for 12, 13 years, and another one's been with me for 7 years, and have seen the growth, have seen the change. And, there's things they'd like to see, and there's things that they think that sucks. And it's like, listen, guys, you're the destiny of this. It's not me. You're the ones that are going to make this happen. I just say, we need to do this. What are we going to do to get to that point? So I really think it's going to help both businesses with that, and the implementation piece is going to be tough, but this is the time of year to do it for us. I mean, it's, I hate that word shoulder season. It's the first quarter. First quarter sucks for anything in the trades, and if you're in this part of the country, I mean, if you're concrete, you ain't pouring. Well, you were pouring concrete till this week, but most typical winter times, I mean, you're not doing anything between Christmas and March 1st. Sometimes mid-December. It's been a little bit different this year, but for the most part, we've had it. This is the time where you implement and you retool, you retweak, and you kind of go, okay, here's what we need to do to get to, to set these processes. So it is, and it doesn't mean I'm stepping away from the business, but my role hopefully will be, I'll still do commercial estimating. I'll still be involved if I need to be involved, but maybe I'm a little bit more of an ambassador per se with the company, and I can help with the plumbing side more, and know that things are taken care of, and that we can refine some processes. You'll never be perfect. About the time you think you have utopia, then something will come from the side and freaking knock you off kilter. But, it's, if you don't plan, then it's a plan to fail, if you know what I'm saying. So,
do you think that the timing was right here? Do you feel like you're late to the game, or with making this move? It obviously has taken you a while to get comfortable with it and want to be able to do it. Looking back, would you have done it faster, or do you think the timing was just where it needed to be?
For this role, I think I needed to probably proved wrong. I had someone tell me 2 years ago, they said, listen, Travis, you're in the next role, you need to have this person or this position in the office. And I'm like, yeah, you're full of it. Typical Travis. I said, I've done it. I can continue to do it. Watch me. Well, then, we've still done okay the last 2 years, but then I've missed out on opportunities. And that's where I go, okay, there's my problem. Okay, we can still do this, but now we're starting to miss out on this stuff. And this is the stuff where we should be really good at that we're overlooking. So, probably should have done it 2 years ago. To be honest, it's like our plumbing shop. We probably should open a plumbing shop 10 years ago, but you know what? I hated service plumbing. And if I had to go back out after hours and fix your toilet, I was not going to be a happy camper because that for me, I didn't like doing that just as a technician, done it. But now that I own a business, we do it and we realize the relationships with the customers and how important, all this stuff is, bathrooms and kitchens and just, how important our job is. It goes way beyond my little phobia or my dislike of the business. There's a lot of stuff I actually really like about the business. There's one part that everybody they say hates, but honestly, there's a lot of people that understand it's just a part of life. And you either embrace it or you don't. And you look at every nurse that works in the hospitals, low, guess what they deal with a lot every day? The same stuff that plumbers do. And you don't hear them bitch and complain about it. So,
Well, 10 years ago, you couldn't have done it. You didn't have Hayden.
No, he was 2 years. Let's see, 10 years ago. Yeah, he would have been a senior. He was a senior in high school with Central 10 years ago. But,
Right.
He would have been he would have just been at state wrestling. So that's where I was at 10 years ago. So.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that you said you probably should have done it 10 years ago. I don't know that you could have. It would have taken somebody in a different position.
Probably 4 or 5 years ago we could have, but when he got out of the Marine Corps, he done utilities, but he was not ready at that point. So the timing probably was hindsight's 2020.
Mhm.
I mean, it is. You always go back and look, but that's why you have hindsight. I had a friend of mine that talked about this. This was on a totally different subject. Very successful marketing. She was mad about something. I think it was politics. I says, I want to forget about the past. I got to remember the future. And I said, you know what? Here's the deal, though. I said, you got to remember or understand what happened in the past to avoid making the same mistakes in the future. I said, you can feel however you want, you do whatever. But in business, it's that way. If you want to avoid the mistakes of the future, you have to at least understand your past and do everything you can to try to correct or, adjust so you don't make them mistakes. It doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. You're still going to be mistakes. But if you can minimize them and control them a whole lot better, that's huge.
You want to understand them, but you don't want to live there.
Oh God, no. If you're back fixing stuff all the time, you're fixing your stuff. That's a good way to go broke.
Yeah.
I don't care what business you're in. So,
well, and it was from my side of things, it was just brought up to me this morning that, I've been working on this business for a long time. Got sidetracked for a while because I let somebody talk me into going to work on theirs instead of focused on mine. But this has been happening for quite a while. So I have more history than even I'm willing to give myself credit for. And I think that you have been one of the inspirations for me and what it is that you do and what you have done in this market. You've taken a franchise model and hit a level that, you're one of the top producers for Aire Serv.
Yeah.
And that in this market, which once you're trusted here, I think that it gets easier, but that
trusted. I may not always be liked, but
no, but people do trust you. They do trust you. They know that if Travis says something, he means it and he's going to honor it. And this is not something that you're going to change your mind about very easily. I know that better than most, that it takes you a while to make that change. And that's universal for you. It's not, as far as this particular position goes, this is a huge pivotal moment in your company. And you weren't going to go there quickly.
No, I'm one of those people, I mean, listen, I'm a huge Iowa Hawkeye fan, it's not a secret, but I love Kirk Ferentz in this aspect. If you watch football, a good football coach, I use Kirk as a great example. If Kirk has to replace football coach, I mean, he had to replace, LeVar Woods just left to go to Michigan State. And everybody's like, oh my God, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? 2 weeks later, they announced, guess what? They're bringing somebody in-house that's been underneath them for 5 years that's really been in charge of a lot of it. He doesn't make a quick decision, but it makes a decision that's best for his team and his program. You kind of got to vet out the process. You have to be comfortable with that person and that process. And and everybody's different. I'm definitely not, the closest thing I'm to Flash is my pickup. You know, and the whole reason I own my pickup is because my son decided, you know, to go to him and his wife had twins, and you know he needed he needed a vehicle where he could haul the twins and still run a plumbing business. And well, so I gave him basically sold him mine, and I bought a different truck so I could do whatever. And I said, so I use my grandkids as an excuse. So I got an expensive taxi for my grandkids, but I use it every day for business. But beyond that, I'm not a flash person. I mean, I like bib overalls. I wear blue jeans. You know, I'm not your typical business owner. If you want me to be flash, I mean, you know, there's nothing flash, and Lord knows I'm not fast, so I'm not flash that way either. But you know, substance is kind of who you are, and it had to be somebody that fit our mold. And for every business, it's different. You know, every difference, you know, sometimes people's moral compass dictates to what there are, you know, like I said, you know, and what guides them. And, you know, and everybody has to decide what their level and what they're comfortable with. But then, you know, the thing is, if I'm going to trust them in this role, then I have to be able to put them in this role to be able to succeed, to be able to excel, to be able to put processes in place. And that's kind of what I'm wanting for this position. But actually for, you know, my install manager, my service manager, you know, basically that, you know, came back from training too, that have kind of been a title, but have been in the field. It's like, hey, I want to take the next step. And it's like, well, this is great. You know, now let's talk about what the kind of next step looks like, you know, and, you know, we need to replicate what you're doing with everybody in the company. And, you know, we kind of talk about some processes, because, you know, if I pull you out of the field, you know, then, you know, X, Y, Z, ABC needs to be able to do their job and do their job better. So that's where, you know, that's where we're, you know, that's a struggle we're working through. Any business that's growing or scaling per se, you know, and I have goals, you know. I mean, you know, let's see, talk about being last year, you know, last 2 years, you know, where my numbers have been, you know, sounds great. I've been pissed off because I feel like we haven't hit the level that we need to. And, you know, my franchise will sit there, and sometimes they'll do this and they'll give me a swat in the butt on the backside because I usually say something they don't like, which that's okay, you know, but, you know, it's like, okay, great, we did this, but we missed out on this, you know, and you know, and that way football's that way too. You know, it's like, okay, great, he caught the ball, but look at the 3 drop. You know, could he have done? You know, and so that's what kind of makes business fun. That's why I like business. I trade to football, and it's never the big stuff. It's always the small stuff. And in your business too, Todd, you know, when we're talking about business and growth and development, you've probably found, yeah, you made that big mistake and went and did the other deal with that other place that, you know, you no longer work for. But then I think what it did for you though is once that went away, and for health wise, I think it was better for you.
Yeah.
But two, I think it motivated, not that you weren't motivated before, but I'll call for what it is. I think it kind of get to be, you know, where before you might have been a little bit hesitant. And I think it kind of changed your mind. Say, look, fuck it, let's go for broke.
That's a good way of putting it.
I mean, I don't know. I can sugarcoat it, whatever, but I think that changed your mindset. And you look at where you're at now. Like I said, we talked about this last week a little bit, where you were at when we were sitting in Barley a year and a half ago talking about an app and some of the other stuff. And now you look at where you're at, you're way beyond that conversation.
The ships are burnt. Yeah. There's no turning back. This is it for me. You know, the gray hair is not from a Miss Clairol bottle. This was earned. And I have had it, you know, for a while because the experience in life has gotten me here. This is it for me. This is my vehicle. There is no other options. And for me, it's not a pressure thing. I don't feel pressure from it. No. I feel focus from it. Yeah. And that is a big help for me. And something else that I have learned from you is when you make a decision, don't look back. No. Own the decision and move forward. Yeah. And you are really good at that. You know, there's not going to be, I know that with this new hire and this putting a new person into creating a new position and putting someone new in there, you're not going to look back from that. All right, this is now our baseline and we're going to grow from here.
Yeah, and have to.
That is something else that I have learned by watching what it is that you're doing in this market.
Mm-hmm. have to, and it's something that's been overdue. And you know, where I've learned it, and as I said, I have a love hate relationship with my franchise, and there's one that drives Fords and likes red tractors, and I flip him all kinds of crap. So I'll leave his name out of here, but he might live in Western Tennessee. I don't know, and look like a hillbilly, but like I said, you look at I've looked at his stuff a little bit, and I've looked at some of the top performers within the franchise network, and and here's the deal: you can't do it by yourself. You got to surround yourself with key people. One of the things I noticed, that each one that actually scaled or went to the next level, and a lot of them, their wives are involved at a different level. I mean, my wife will tell you that me and her can't work together, but I could work with her sister just fine, right? But they have key people. They have that person, ops person, whatever it is, the glue position, that is somebody in the background is the rock star that helps put the chaos together, that helps you kind of break the envelopes and do whatever. And so you can't do it by yourself. I mean, it's my name on it, but realistically, for everybody in my room, in my business, for them to be successful, for me to be successful, they have to be successful. They have to enjoy their jobs. They have to make, they want to be able to make more money. Obviously, it can't be a Travis wins and everybody else freaking loses. That doesn't pay the bills. I mean, that doesn't pay the bills. That doesn't build a relationship with the customer. And that's a hard, sometimes that's a hard pill to understand, but it's a part of business. And so, like with where you're at, you've got Kyle in there, and you got Carlene, at some point, you guys might get busy enough, not too far down the road, where you have a video production part-time, and you've talked about that.
Already have it.
Yeah. It might be
it's a remote job, but yeah, we have that in place already.
Might be to a point to where, you have to have, whether it's an AI assistant or, a real assistant, maybe to help schedule and coordinate your, what your work schedule is. Because frankly, when you get to a point that if your Google Calendar is like mine,
Mm-hmm.
and listen, I live off a Google Calendar. That's one thing my son Harley taught me is Google Calendar is a great thing, because I get a day before and hour before reminder. And if I don't read them or I don't look up, then that's 100% on me. So
I do a day before, an hour before, and 10 minutes before.
Oh, you do the 10 minutes.
I do 3. and that alert is going to come up on my phone. And now at that point, if I miss something,
then it's on you.
That is 100% on me. and I'm not going to say it hasn't happened, but it has, but it's not a common thing. That has worked for me to be able to have those and there's times that alert comes up and said, oh, I forgot about that. I forgot that I said that.
Oh yeah, and like, oh shit. And it's like, well, I guess we're gonna wig our way through this one.
Yeah.
Lord knows, and if you haven't done that, if you haven't had to do that business, you're not in business. I mean, you I never do that. It's like, okay, come on. No one, if you've never been to the plane, you've never done that. There's people that are really, really, really good about it, but it's.
Oh, yeah, I missed an appointment about 3 years ago with one of the top names in this town.
Uh-huh.
And it was a shock to everyone, because what got back, I mean, my phone started ringing. Are you okay? Are you okay? Because the conversation was, Todd doesn't miss appointments. That doesn't happen. And here I missed one. And it was because it didn't get into my calendar.
Oh yeah, that's the thing.
Because if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't exist.
I tell my gals that if I need to go see a customer, do whatever, if it's not on my Google Calendar, then forget it. It just, you know what I'm saying? So no, I 100% agree. So, but,
well, this has been, I'm always looking for business tips. This is the value that I get out of sitting down and talking to you every day, or once a week when we do this kind of stuff. I'm always trying to suck information out of you if you don't realize I'm doing it.
It's all right. I just like to give you shit about being a Falcon. Hey, by the way, Kirk Cousins is available as of March 11th. The Falcons announced that this morning. So
yeah, $110 million contract, and it lasted about a month or something. I mean,
Hey,
it was.
do you think they'll finally spell Penix's name twice? I mean, the last time I saw it in Atlanta, they had a TV station that had a little bit of problem with the spelling of his last name.
Yeah, they replaced the X with something else.
Yeah.
He's a good quarterback, though. I just think that he's they don't have the system dialed in yet. But you know, it was.
I think they gave up on Raheem Morris a year too soon. We'll see if that I'm wrong.
You think so?
I like their head coach. Yeah, I did. I think I think you need to make some adjustments. I don't think you throw out the baby with the bathwater just because maybe first half of the season didn't go to where you want. I think he had him trending in the right direction, but what do I know?
Well, I think it had more to do with that team was stacked with talent. And they should have had one of the best offenses in the league. And it just wasn't producing at the level that it should have been. And how many close games did they lose? I mean, it was every week as a 1 or 2 point game.
Well, replace the offensive coordinator and leave one of the best defensive coordinators in the game as your head coach. and then take another run at it, well, I mean, I would have taken I would have taken Raheem Morris in Green Bay as a DC. I'd had no problem with that. So
it's amazing how often we flip back to football. It just seems to.
I'm just hoping Tyler Linderbaum sides with Green Bay. That's what I'm hoping. So the Green Bay needs a center. So
I thought you wanting to get Logan up there, right?
Oh yeah, or Logan. I take Logan. Yeah, like I said, Logan's probably gonna be day 2 draft pick. You don't see.
You don't think?
Yeah,
no. You don't think
he'll be day 2. Well, day 1's only first round. I don't think there's anybody in the offensive line for Iowa as good as they were. I don't. I don't see anybody.
It's going to require the need. Yeah. But if somebody has a need for that position, I don't know that they can let it go by because he won't be there later.
Yeah. Iowa's going to have a lot of players come off on day 2 of the board, and they'll probably have a few that come off on day 3. If someone does, I don't know. You just kind of look at the NFL stuff that's coming through. I mean, I just think you see a lot of day 2, quite a few day 3. There's gonna be a lot of players that are drafted. I mean, hell, Iowa had 2 7th rounders last year that stuck. One in Seattle and one that is stuck on the roster in San Francisco. So I mean, the NFL knows what they're getting with them type of players. So it's just a matter. And listen, I'll tell you this: Logan Jones did one thing, and his mom's in town, and I think she's a great lady. And I love Logan, great kid. But the smartest thing he did is he invested in himself, and he came back. He spent another year at Iowa. And where last year, he could have probably went and been probably a 6th or 2nd round. I think he'll be a 2nd or 3rd round, which is going to be guaranteed money, a lot more money, more years on his contract. And I mean, he'll be able to, if he plays 3, 5, or 15 years, I mean, you just don't know, life changing for him. And then when he's done, he can come back, and him and his wife coach PE, and whether it's Sioux City or Council Bluffs or whatever it is that that he's going to do, which I think it's I think it's fantastic. So
one of the things you brought up there too, and we'll just dive into football again. Why not? The longevity of an NFL player, we forget sometimes that it's like 2.5 years on average, because we see the skill players that just last and last. But as an example, and I think I probably said it on your show before, that year that the Saints won the Super Bowl, and you remember beating the Vikings, and they just beat the crap out of Favre in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
And I've always hated the Saints because I hate the Saints probably just as much as you hate the Vikings. And being a Falcons fan, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But 4 years after that Super Bowl win, you take a look at their roster. There were only 4 players left that played in that game.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's how fast things turn over. So when you talk about Logan going in, it's a different kind of thing that you can obviously you want to plan for a long-term career, but such as the guy doing color with Dolphin now, Pat Anger.
Oh yeah.
His career was 5 years long. And then he ended up getting cut from the Falcons. He got released in training camp. And that was the end of his career.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if he got picked up as a, on a practice squad or something after that, or if he tried to continue, but I do know that happened. So,
Yeah.
and
Well,
he's considered one of the top linebackers that Iowa's had. Pat Anger was great.
I'll give you another kid. He's another local kid that I still understand. Of course, being a Packer fans, they had Mike McManus as their kicker that lost them 5 games this year. There's a kid here from Council Bluffs, went to LC, went to Iowa, Caleb Shudak, that's not working for Key Witt and doing great for himself. You don't think he could have been a better kicker than McManus for freaking Green Bay? I'm like,
he's kicking for the beef now.
Yeah, is he kicking for the beef again? Yeah. Okay, well, good for him. But I'm like, you know what? McManus is making all this money and can't hit the broadside of a barn. I've seen this kid kick for 10 years. That's why I understand how they rationalize. But that's another great example. You're like, go what the heck? So
he had who were those guys that I'm trying to remember who they were, that they were the kickers that might have been Australian or something, but just not very big.
Oh,
that's kind of Caleb's deal. Is he's not a big guy.
Oh, I know he's like 5 foot nothing.
I don't see how he's gonna. I don't see how he can kick a ball that far.
Oh, dude, he. I'm gonna tell you what. He played football. He played football with my older boys at LC, and Caleb was not the biggest kid in the team by any stretch. But I'm gonna tell you what. He was a hell of a great baseball player. He did good football, and I know he played a couple other sports. So I'm not gonna stick my mouth the ones I don't know. But I think part of his deal is he stayed back his senior year to play summer baseball. For Lewis Central, a hell of a pitcher actually, and it probably cost him some playing time at Iowa because he chose to stay back. But when he went to Iowa, he primarily became a kicker. But I think if you put him on a soccer field or even on a basketball court, I'm not sure about wrestling. I don't know if his family's big into wrestling or not. But you take a kid like that. A great athlete, like I said, and that's why he was able. You think about how far he can kick the ball. He was a kickoff specialist for 4 years. He was kicking 40, 50-yard field goals in Iowa, for guys' sakes. You take a look at that. He's put his whole body and his whole legs in it, and I haven't seen him forever, but I wouldn't be surprised if his legs are the size of damn tree trunks, if you know what I'm saying. 5 foot nothing, 140 pounds, but his legs are the size of my hips. It's like, but that's sometimes how that works. Another kid, local kid. Since we're talking local sports, I was talking to his dad the other day. Max Duggan, I guess, is getting ready here before too long. They go up to Toronto and play for the Argonauts for CFL this year. So
he's going the CFL route.
And I've kind of known that for a while, but there's another kid that hopefully, I know he tried the UFL and kind of got beat up in St. Louis, and there was a merry-go-round of players, but look, he took TCU. That's been 3 years ago now. Mm-hmm. Took TCU to the national title game versus Michigan. And so you talk about football, 3 years is a freaking lifetime from where you're at. He's going to be in the CFL this year. So
it worked for Flutie, and Flutie ended up having he's considered a success story now, and even making it back to the NFL and late in his career playing for the Patriots again. But because I saw him because you remember he went into what was the USFL back then, and I think didn't he play for the Generals? He was a quarterback for Herschel Walker. Yeah. And when the USFL folded, he went to the Patriots. Yeah. I saw him play for the Patriots. That was the very first NFL game that I went to in Atlanta back when David Archer was the quarterback. Mm-hmm. So this is,
oh, wow.
This has been a while. This was like 1989, I think, is when 88 or 89 is when I saw him. So I saw Flutie play for the Patriots then, and then later he ends up back there and still has a pretty good career and won a lot of championships in the Canadian Football League. So
yeah. Well, they and of course at Council Bluffs last month they did one of the Iowa West venues. I don't know if it's a soccer complex or the indoor Vesta where they talked about the 24 best athletes come out of Council Bluffs. I don't think anybody could argue with the original 24, but I could tell you there's at least another dozen off the top of my head that have played high level, maybe not professional, but definitely very high level college, or at least got tryouts in the NFL. I think they're going to reciprocate, and I think that's fantastic because what that tells kids in this community, young adults, whatever, and Even if they go to Nebraska, I mean, Thomas, I'll give Thomas Fido his love. Of course, he's a Husker, but I mean, look at him. I didn't think he should have came out of Nebraska. He played for the Giants last year. I mean, you take a look at that. I still think he should have been a Hawkeye, but that's my personal bias. But no, you take a look at it. There's a lot of guys, a lot of athletes here in the last few years. Baseball, TJ back in the 60s and 70s, had some fantastic, even going back before, they had some fantastic baseball teams. St. Albert's has had their run of good athletes that have kind of come through. I mean, look at the Waters kid. He went down to K-State, was back at Iowa State. Now he went to Penn State with Matt Campbell. He's another Council Bluffs kid. And if you talk to Donnie Woods, he's the head coach at St. Albert's. He coached at Iowa Western for a while. Of course, he played football at Maryland. And this is when Maryland was in the SEC, not the Big Ten. So it's going back ways. But he knows, I can't believe how many kids he knows that, went through Iowa Western, that came through Council Bluffs, that are playing, played high level college, or, played it at NFL level. So I don't think people realize some of the kids and some of the talent have passed through, Council Bluffs, between the 4 high schools, and
somebody else too,
Western.
Yeah. That, I think I'm still correct. At least the last post I saw, I am, that St. Albert grad, started 4 years at UNI, Jackson Scott Brown. You remember him?
Yep.
Yeah. He is now on the he went with Campbell, and he's on the coaching staff now at Penn State.
Is he at Penn State? Because I knew, because he played a UFL.
He played a season of the UFL. And actually played in the championship game.
Yep.
But had a great career at I worked with his mom forever.
Yeah.
That would Jen Brown, who is I think she's doing mornings on Spirit Catholic Radio now.
Is that what,
she used to do radio at WOW back when that was a thing, and she's been around forever. So very talented. And Council Bluffs native, and has stayed the entire time. And so Jackson still has a lot of ties here. I first met that kid when he was 10.
I actually met him after the season when he played. I think he played for Tampa. If I can't remember what the USL championship. I remember talking to him and his mom, because they was over there for a furnace issue or something. I talked to him and just was taught about his story, because he went to St. Albert's, if I remember right, and then and kind of taught about his story. And he was taught about maybe depending on if get into coaching, but I think it's really, it's cool to see them stories. I mean, he's going to Penn State and Iowa State with Matt Campbell. I mean, listen, you're coaching some top talent, and you're able to put kids in the next level. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like I said, it's amazing. Some of the, you look back, over the years, I know Chris Hatcher, he graduated about the same time I did. Of course, I went to Spencer, and I didn't really know him in high school, but he was a great athlete for Iowa. But then he's got 2 kids that, went and played, one's played Division I. I know the other one that has been playing football. And I mean, you just look at some of the, players, and then, kind of the next generation has come along. I mean, Jim Duggan wasn't a bad quarterback in his own right, before Max came along, but, he's an old fuddy-duddy now like me, but, I mean, it is what it is, but, I think it's great to where they have a Hall of Fame to where they can talk about. So, and that's nothing against some of the guys. I mean, Omaha's had some great athletes too. Don't get me wrong. They, probably more just based off sheer numbers, but it's really cool to see. And that, if you're a 10-year-old kid and you're down at Keith Massey's wrestling room, or George Ivanov's, or whoever it is, and, you can go take a look, you can go down to Lewis Central, and you can see, where they've had, wrestlers go and wrestle in college. You can go to TJ, you can see that kind of stuff, and just see some of the different athletes. I mean, I believe, talk soccer, and I know nothing about soccer, and soccer's not my favorite sport. I'll put that, but I believe, is it Cole Jensen that I believe that plays professional soccer?
Not sure.
He played. I believe he plays for the Omaha professional soccer team, but he's an LC kid, if I remember right. So, I mean, so it just doesn't have to be, football, wrestling, whatever. And I know there's been some girls. I know there was one gal, and I can't remember her name, played at Iowa for 4 years. Played at Iowa. There's quite a few that played over there. I mean, it's just cool that they're recognizing them, and I'm hoping that they get some of them people that they talk about, and you could share the lineage. Just because you're a kid from Council Bluffs doesn't mean you can't make it from here to
And I
here.
think that was kind of the point too, that because I had Brenda Mainwaring in here, and this was an Iowa West project, and it's at the Iowa West Sportsplex is where they did that, and they had to cut it off somewhere because there was some question about, well, what about this person or this person? Well, this is not the last induction we're going to have, so so that's to be able to not just honor those athletes, it is also to shine a spotlight on the community. And it is to encourage and be an inspiration to some of the younger people that are coming up that say, this is achievable. And it's not just okay to put your eyes on that goal. You're encouraged to, because the path has been blazed and you can get there, all the way down to, well, you going back an awful lot of years. You remember the Bluffs Butcher?
Yeah.
Stander?
Yeah,
his grandson was up here taking a tour of the. He's a local realtor now.
Sure, absolutely.
So he's here locally, and that family, and he didn't really touch a lot about it, but I want to get him on the podcast to talk about on some of that history, because I'm sure he's heard some great stories that probably isn't really well known. So,
100%, and unless it's cool to see any of them kids, success at a level. We did some work for Mike Stunts. He played at Nebraska for 4 years. Of course, his dad, or like I said, of course, his family was pretty big Hawkeyes, but he ended up going to Nebraska because just the opportunity was there. But you talk to some of the parents who've dealt with some of the high level coaches at them levels, and I think the ones that have success, that it's like anything else, and you can take this in business and life. They go there obviously to mature, grow as adults, but I think they go there they made decisions to do because they have people in place that work with them, and they work with people that care, and they care about the success of that athlete, and they consider success as an individual. Because you could be a great athlete, you never know what's going on in their head. You forget about the mental part of this. I mean, you could be the best athlete in the world, but if you're a friggin' train wreck or bipolar, guess what? You're not gonna be able to focus on, what you can do at a high level. Just look at the Olympics. I mean, for example, and listen, I'll call for what it is. So we're going to talk men's hockey for a minute. Listen, I'm an Edmonton Oilers fan. Growing up in the '80s, I love Connor McDavid. I love Leon Draisaitl. I can tell I'm probably the only Edmonton Oilers fan in Council Bluffs, Iowa. They're like, what are you talking about? So, and I wanted the USA to win, but I would have been okay had Canada won, because Connor McDavid would have finally won a gold medal. He hasn't won the Stanley Cup. He's lost in the finals twice. But if you watch that game, and I was up 7 o'clock Saturday morning, some of the best, not just a hockey, but sports period for 2.5 hours from two teams going back and forth. It's about country, but about athleticism. I'm going to tell you, if you didn't watch that on Sunday, you missed out on. This was not just your typical, this was the Olympics. These guys definitely won it. And the Americans won. Good for them. They made the shot. But it was one of the coolest things I've seen in a while. So,
well, and here's the thing about that is now these guys got to go back and play.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of those players for the United States play in Canada.
Yeah.
the goalie.
Oh, yeah.
Plays for Winnipeg.
Oh, I know.
So
yeah, I know. They won't trade him to Edmonton. See, believe me, we need a goalie.
So they just got to kind of let all that go and then go back to being teammates again, because it was pretty heated. There was a ton of pride in that.
You get teammates that are best friends on the NHL team. They go on an Olympic time, but don't want to drop gloves and fight each other. I mean, does it get any better than that? I mean, it just, I guess it just proves that sometimes it's about the color you want to root for that has a lot to do with, what.
Yeah, we're all rooting for clothing. Yeah.
Yeah, no one wants to see that. So,
a lot of great stuff here today, Travis, and congratulations on getting that hire done. I know you're just in the beginning stages of getting everything ramped up, but I also know that once you make a decision, once that decision is done, you're moving forward from there.
Yeah.
And there's no looking back, and you're going to turn that into a success, and it's going to take your company to the next level. It's going to probably add some good quality of life to you, take some of the pressure off. And because you got grandkids now, you got different things going on. You will slowly come around to rooting for a better NFL team, but I'm not. Again, you just take a long time to make that decision. So
this is a Falcons fan talking to me about.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
You leave the dark side and come over and hate the Saints with the rest of us.
Well, that's not easy to do, especially since Tony Derimas is a fan of the Saints. It's pretty easy to hate the Saints.
My dislike of the Saints is pretty on par with the same as the Cornhuskers.
Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
Tony has a Saints tattoo and he's got a Yankees tattoo, and I looked at one day at a baseball game because his kid played with his boy in baseball and stuff. And I said, "Yeah, that's definitely the definition of the Biggest Loser." So, yeah, and I get a lot, and a lot of people do too. Some people like him, some people hate him, but listen, it's all good. So,
all right, sir. Saints. Well, grateful as always, and we'll slowly wait for football season to come back, and we can start breathing a little bit easier again.
Pitchers and catchers reports. Cubs are going to go 162-0. The White Sox and Yankees are going to go 0-162. There you
go. Yeah, I kind of hate the Phillies on that level. So, yeah, being a Braves guy, I'm just an Atlanta fan. That's what it is. I finished high school down there, and I didn't have a team up here because Iowa doesn't have any pro teams, so I just kind of adopted everybody down there, and it's stuck.
I'm still pissed that Maddox went to Atlanta. He didn't stay at the Cubs, so it is what it is. So.
The only game that I've been to at Wrigley, Maddox was pitching for Atlanta, and he set the consecutive road win streak at that game.
Yeah,
and that was the game that actually there's 2 outs, nobody on. I think it was the bottom of the 5th inning, and Maddox is up to bat. I'm sitting pretty close to where the whole Bartman thing happened years later. That's about where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
And Maddox hits a ball and it kind of curves in. So I'm sitting here right to the left of me is my friend Farrell, who, by the way, was a huge Green Bay fan. And both of us ducked out of the way. If they weren't making fun of us on the TV broadcast, I'd be very surprised. And sitting next to Farrell, the ball hits that guy in the hand, and the ball skips up into the crowd. Now, he's just upset he didn't make the catch.
Yeah,
I can see, just like a cartoon, his hand going from how hard this thing hit him. So Maddox was the one that hit that ball, and then with 2 outs and nobody on, and then the Braves go on to score 5 with 2 outs in that inning and win the game 7-2. So that was my experience at Wrigley. Only time I've ever been.
Yeah.
That was 1995, the year that Braves won the World Series.
Yeah, there you go. They got as many World Series as the Cubs, so there you go.
Well, they got 2.
Yeah. Okay.
They won that year, and they won, was it 2018?
Yeah.
So
it is what it is. So it's all good.
All right, sir. Well, go get some work done, and we'll talk with you again soon.
See ya.